Well, welcome back to Life on Cars, and I hope you're all keeping well. Today's episode, we're back on the Rolls-Royce. It's a slightly longer episode than usual because the job that I'm doing today, which is changing the belts on the Rolls-Royce, turned out to be a little bit more complicated. Things escalated as per usual, and I was thinking about editing this video down, but in the end I thought I might as well show you all the challenges that I had with the job, because again it'll be a good reference for any mechanics or owners moving forward who need to get the belts replaced on a Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit 3 or Bentley SZ derivative. So without further ado, we'll crack on. Get yourself a cup of tea, sit down and watch a grown man climbing in and out of the engine bay on a Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit. Let's go! So how many belts do we need then to do the service? One, two, two in there, four, five belts on a Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit. It's got this little belt here because it has a little pump that drives what they call an air pump, which is quite interesting. I'll tell you a bit more about that later on when we get into the project. These little Allen key bolts that hold the engine cover on. Okay, that's that out the way. This is the air conditioning pump, which is driven by another belt from the crankshaft that you can see there, and then the air conditioning pump has a pulley with a second groove, and that belt drives this, which is an air pump, and that pumps air into the exhaust manifold of the engine to help to reduce the emissions by pumping oxygen into the exhaust manifold, which helps to burn or continue the burn for unburnt fuel in the exhaust manifold, reducing the emissions. So that's what that air pump's for. So yeah, we've got quite a lot of belts going on this. So you can see there's 4 belts come off the crankshaft pulley, and it looks like one of them is for the alternator, another one goes up and drives the air conditioning pump. So yeah, lots of belts whirling around, and I don't know the history of these belts at all, so I think it makes sense to change them over, and then we know that they're going to be good for our lovely road trips. Hey, that little whistle there, that's the belt slipping. I think it's the alternator belt, because it's a bit slack, I've noticed. Anyway, I need to turn the car around so I can get to the right side to change these belts. Alright, Got a nice wing cover over so we don't scratch the beautiful wild berry paint. So yeah, I'm working from the passenger side, the near side, which is the side that looks to be the best side for doing these belts. Should be able to do all this without getting underneath, I think. So there's our little adjuster look for the alternator belt, which is the one I think that's slack. So yeah, there's quite a bit of deflection look on that one. I think that's the one that's squealing. That's too much, too much deflection. But yeah, that's the adjuster for that belt. Then it looks like there, see there, look. There's the adjuster for this aircon and air injection pump. The only tricky bit on this job is, you see this here? This is the power steering pump, and that one will have an adjuster on it, which is, see the oil, the new oil filter I fitted down there. The adjuster is between the oil filter. It's kind of where my hand is now, under there, and can I hella see it? I know it's there, but I will need to get to that, and it might be a case of fishing in the dark to get to that. I might need a mirror so I can see. I just can't see it. I thought I had a glimpse of it just now, but so the adjuster here, I've just slackened that off. That's a 17 that goes through there, and this is this little bolt here. That is a 11mm, so I'm going to move them now, and then that should slacken off the alternator belt. He says, yep, that's the alternator belt moving. So there's a little locking nut on the inside as well. I've got to wind that off. Basically what you've got to do is hook it round past between the fan and the radiator. I'm just having a look for original markings. That's the only mark I can find on that. UE73229, made in Denmark, 5261. There's no Rolls-Royce symbol that I can see on the belt. But we'll have a look at them all and see if they have corresponding markings. It is just starting to show signs of cracking, this one, look. Can you see? Bring you in a bit closer. There is some signs of cracking starting, look, on that one. So could be that it's been on there a long time. Could even be original, I don't know. But it's not too bad. You know, I've seen worse, but thing with these, you just never know, do they? And then they suddenly go. So that's the alternator one off. Next, so the alternator one runs in the very outside groove of the fan pulley. The next part we need to take off is this one, which is driving from, comes from the crankshaft, and it comes up and it goes around the inner of the aircon pump. So that is actually the aircon belt, that one. Oh, actually no, we won't be able to take that one off, will we, until we take this outer one. We're going to have to take this outer one off first, which drives the air injection pump. I've just noticed that aircon pump that air injection pump is made by Denso of Japan, which is good because they are an incredible manufacturer. Denso, the stuff they make is super well made, fitted to all Toyotas. It says no oiling, so yeah, it does have a magnetic clutch. It's got a wire going to it, so that obviously comes in and out the air pump. It must be computer controlled, so I imagine it probably doesn't come on until certain engine conditions to pump air into the manifolds. I haven't told you, but I want to tell you a bit more about that. Can you see that pipe there? So that's your exhaust manifold down there, and can you see that pipe? That is the pipe that is injecting oxygen or air into the exhaust manifold. Interesting setup. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, we do need to take that one off now. So let me figure out how that one's going to come off. So the little air injection pump has this fella here, and you can just see the threaded bar there, and there's a nut at the back of there. So it's got its own little adjuster on it. See, the slot. So I'm going to slacken that off and then wind the nut there, and that should allow this little air injection pump to move, and then we should be able to take the belt off. So that's a 13mm on there. Slacken that off. Then I'm winding the adjuster out by hand to give me some slack. And then hopefully it'll pivot in. It may need a pivot bot slackening off from down below, but shall we see if it moves? That's not moving, so I need to find a pivot bolt as well. Right, I've come around the other side to show you the pivot bolt for the air injection pump is off of this bracket here. There, that's the pivot bolt for it's a 13mm, so I'm going to slacken that off, and then the air injection pump should move. Right, that's slack-ish. Let's see if the air injection pump moves now. Yep, it's moving, look. See? So I just need to push the pump that way, and then this, well, the belt's already slackened off, look. There we are, look. Yeah, it's nearly off that. Yeah, it's nearly off there, look. Your earlier spirits won't have had this air injection pump. There's the belt off. They won't have had this. It's obviously for emissions regulations at the time. As I'm taking things off, I'm just spinning things just to see what the bearings feel like, and that feels okay. So that air injection pump belt goes from here to the outside of the air conditioning compressor. So now we should be able to take that one off. Rolls-Royce SPC 3722 made in Denmark. The Danes make a good belt because that's original. That is the original belt for the air injection pump. And look, it's at the end of its life. So I am glad I'm changing these. Look, it's split. 31-year-old, fitted by a Rolls-Royce mechanic, removed by Paul on Life on Cars. 2. So next is the air conditioning belt. So it looks like for the aircon pump belt, just zooming out a little bit. So like I said, there's an adjuster there, look. So we'll need to slacken that off. And we may need to slacken these off because these will be what it pivots on. So we'll slacken this off first and see if there's any movement at all. And then we'll go from there. So I think for the compressor belt adjustment, I need to slacken that off there. That 13, because that's the pinch bolt for the adjuster. And then I'll need to slacken those, see those on the threaded bar, one on one side, one on the other. And then hopefully the aircon pump will move. So you can see there the this threaded bar here for the aircon pump, but it's not going into a slotted bracket, so I'm guessing if we move those two 11mm nuts either side, and then we'll see if we get some movement from the aircon pump. I think I need a ring key. Oh, that's really comfortable. Not. Oh. I'm going to try and show you where these bolts are to get the aircon pump to move, but it's not easy. But where there's a will, there's a way, and I've got a way. Jack, sponge, wing cover, climb in. And now I can see what I'm doing. It's a good job I'm still flexible. So here we are then, we've climbed into the engine bay. Okay, so I've finally got the aircon pump to move now. Let me show you. See? So it's moving. And it's moving on the adjuster. To make that happen, you have to slacken the adjuster off here, right? You have to slacken this bolt off, okay? Then there is another Allen key head bolt down underneath the belt. So I will see if I can show you that, where that is. That is that one there. That needs to be slack. Then I was thinking, why is it still not moving? But there is another bolt down there, which is the one that also needs to slacken off, which is, let's see if I can get it on the camera for you. That one there, down underneath the compressor. And then the whole thing will swivel. I've been in some funny positions on cars, but it's rare when you have to climb into the engine bay, but occasionally it does happen. So you can see now with the aircon belt, I've brought it past and off. It's I brought it off the, focus, off the water pump, and now we should be able to get enough clearance to start bringing the rest of it off. It's still a bit tight around the pulleys, if I'm being honest, and I don't think there's a lot more movement. on the adjuster. So just slacken the adjuster off a little bit more. You can see I'm right on getting towards the end there. So yeah, let's see if we can draw this belt off. So I wasn't getting enough. What you need to do with the aircon pump is you do need to actually, let me show you. Can you see the adjuster here? You actually need that to go right. See that? Right up to the end. And the only way that that'll happen is if you actually take the bolt off from down underneath the pump. Careful you don't drop the spacer. But that bolt actually needs to come all the way out, because if you don't push that aircon pump all the way like that, then you can't get the belt off. Anyway, it's now come off. That was quite a challenge because I had to try and work that out as to why that wouldn't come off. But anyway, it's off now. So I just need to fish it out from behind the fan again. There we are. Wow, that was a challenge, that one. Okay. Oh, it's another Rolls-Royce one. Rolls-Royce. SPC 3682. So that's probably been on since it was a car. It's not in bad condition, to be fair. But yeah, I might keep these for a bit of prosperity, these old Rolls-Royce belts. 3. Right. So all that's left now is the 2 belts that drive the water pump and this fella here, which is the power steering pump. And I'm going to be working blind here because I need to try to find the adjuster. So I can feel something. But I think it's down. I think there'll be a bottom one as well. That's somewhere down there where the oil filter is. So I'm going to go fishing again. So for these last 2 bolts, I have come underneath the car. Otherwise, I'll not be able to show you this. You can see the oil filter there. And then if you look higher up, you can see that's the pinch bolt there, that one. So I've slackened that one off, and then that one there is the adjuster, which you can see I've started to wind it out. Yeah, it's not the easiest thing to see, that is it, hidden behind the oil filter. There you go, you can see the, there you are, you can see the slot where it slides backwards. So I'm going to slacken that off a bit more and then see if those last 2 belts will come off. The other good thing about getting underneath is I will be able to look up there at the bottom pulley and just check that the belts are fitted in the groove properly. So what you'll find, once you've slackened that adjuster off that's down near the oil filter, the pump, the power steering pump will not pivot, because you need to slacken off the top pivot bolt for the pump. And that has just took me about 2 hours to figure out where it is, because it's not easy to see. I've been online, I've been looking at technical drawings and things like that, all completely useless. Even the Rolls-Royce service documents don't show where the bolt is. But future reference, life on cars, I'll show you where it is and you won't believe how you get to it. Let me show you. So there you go, any mechanics working on a Silver Spirit 3 and you're trying to change those last two belts, twin belts that go round the crankshaft, round the water pump and then round the power steering pulley. This is the pivot bolt here. You have to go through the hole in the pulley and the bolt is in there and you just slacken it off and then you will find that the belt will then loosen off because the whole thing can then pivot that way. So yeah, that's just took me a long time to figure that out. Tuesday afternoon. I had to stop on Sunday because I got to a point where I was getting a bit frustrated with the job. Those last two belts would not come past the pulley, even with the belt slackened off. And it looked to me like I needed to get more movement on the adjuster. And could I see how that would swing more? I just couldn't work it out. It was balking up basically. And I realised that I needed to slacken off the rest of the bolts holding the pump to the bracket. And the one that you go through the pulley, that was obviously already slack, but the other ones you can't get to unless you take the alternator off. So I ended up taking the alternator off. So I now know how to remove an alternator from a Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit. And once I got the alternator off, I was able to get to those other bolts. And eventually I managed to get the power steering pump to swing far enough. It basically needs to swing all the way to the end of its adjuster. And when that happens, I was then able to remove those last two belts. But what a carry on I had. What a carry on. But you know, it's never swung all that way off for 31 years, so it was a little bit reluctant. It was balking up. So anyway, now that I've done that, we can carry on. So let's go. So you can see there with the alternator off, which lives there, I was able to get a lot more sight as to what was going on with the power steering pump, and I can see all the bolts, and I'll circle. I don't know if you can see that bolt there, but I will circle that. That's the one I couldn't get to with the alternator in place. Cracked that off, got a little bit more movement, and then the power steering pump swung a bit further on its adjuster, allowing me to take those last couple of belts off. So what an absolute mare I've had with this so far, but hey ho, you know, the last person to fit these belts was a Rolls-Royce mechanic in the factory, and you know, the adjusters, they're just mechanical adjusters and they've not moved for 31 years. So, and then I've come along and disturbed it all. This is what happens when you're working on old cars. You've just got to try and persevere. But yeah, they don't make it easy. You know, it probably would have been slightly easier if I was working on a lift. But all I'm doing here in the workshop is I've got the car on a couple of axle stands, and I'm trying to get underneath and see what's going on. So, and then obviously when it's up on axle stands, it's high up at the front, so you've got to climb in the engine bay. And I've basically crippled my back, crippled my shoulders, all in the name of changing these belts. So there we are, there's the last two bolts that go around the power steering pump. They are also Rolls-Royce branded, as you can see. So basically the whole lot, all 5 belts are original. How about that? Here we go then, full set of belts from IntroCar. Excellent service again, belts basically next day. So there's the two for the power steering pump, twin set UE46097 drive belt. There's the air pump drive belt on there, SPC3722X. And then we've got the alternator one, UE73229, and we've also got the aircon compressor belt there, SPC3682X. So let's go. You probably think I'm crazy, don't you? But this is what we do. This is what car guys do. We mess on until we get the job right, and it's needed doing. 3 of those belts are cracked and split, ready to throw themselves off. Interestingly, the 2 belts that go around that power steering pump, I probably could have left them because they still look pretty good. But you've got to change them all, haven't you? You've got to change them all. Right, less chit chat, let's go. Well, good morning. It's Wednesday morning now. I did another couple of hours last night, and I'm possibly going to do a little bit more tonight on the job after I finish work. And then again, hopefully I can get onto it on Thursday night as well. But last night, I was expecting to get a bit further, but it was still putting up a fight. So what happened last night was, after I got the belts off, those last 2 belts from around the power steering pump, the new ones wouldn't go on. And what it is, it's because the old ones are 31-year-old. They've had time to stretch and settle in. And the new ones obviously are a little bit shorter because they're brand new. And I just couldn't get them over the edge of the pulley. And what I had to do in the end was actually remove the adjuster completely from the power steering pump bracket. And I phoned a friend, and a friend of mine, a mechanic friend of mine, came around, and between the 2 of us, so one of us would lever the pump over with a bar right over onto its stop, basically, with the adjuster off, while another forced the belts over the pulley. And once the first one went over, the second one followed suit quite easily after that. But basically the adjuster had to be completely taken off just to get that last couple of millimeters of movement. So basically the pump, the power steering pump, had to be moved almost all the way over so it was touching the engine block. And they just about went on. So that was as far as we got last night. So I've got the belt over the pulley now. I'm on the home straight. Oh God, what a marathon this has been. It really has. But anyway, come on, let me show you where I'm up to now. I've got the last couple of belts to tension up. But my God, she's put up a fight. She really has. So there we are. Look, we've got the alternator back on. I haven't tensioned that one yet. The alternator one is still very slack. I haven't done that one yet. There's a sequence you've got to do these. So the power steering ones are on. Gosh, they were horrible. Then what you've got to do is you've got to fit the aircon belt first, and you've got to tension that one, because if you don't, obviously the tension of that one will affect this air pump belt because it's on the same pulley. So the way you do it is you tension up the aircon belt first. I haven't talked about tension, have I? You can buy a tension gauge, but because I've got a lot of experience over the years, I can just tell by feel where I am with the belt. So, but a rule of thumb, it's about an inch, half an inch deflection is somewhere near. But with such a complex system like this, what we'll likely find is that that's the alternator one. Look, that's not tight yet. Then I've got my two, the inner ones. Look, they're the power steering ones. That's the sort of deflection that I'm happy with for now. Obviously, both of those are on the same tensioner. But God, those two, they did not want to go over the pulleys unless the tensioner was basically hitting the block. So that was an absolute nightmare. That's my air conditioning compressor belt, that one there. You can see the deflection. This isn't the longest stretch though. You should always check the tension of belts on the longest stretch. You can see I've got a bit of give there, but actually I've got a bit more give down the other side. Like I say, you're looking for about half an inch, but I can just tell by feel if they're where they need to be. But yeah, what I was going to say is I will probably have to check these after maybe 100 miles or so, because I'm expecting these to settle in, because it's such a complex arrangement with obviously all new belts, brand new belts. They will give a bit and they'll settle in. So I'll probably have to retension these in a couple of months' time when I've got the car up and running. So I'm just on with this one now. I'm just starting to wind the tension on, which is this adjuster here, and not forgetting to tighten that one up when we finish for the air pump. That's the pivot bolt there down on that lower bracket. I'm just going to climb back in the engine bay one more time for the benefit of you guys and just show you all the bolts that need to be slackened off for the air conditioning pump to move now that I've figured it all out and got it all back together. You wouldn't believe how Rolls-Royce have engineered the fitment of the air conditioning pump, and it's built like a tank. I mean, normally a pump or an alternator would have a top one bolt for the pivot and a bottom bolt. Not the air conditioning pump. Oh no, sir. Rolls-Royce decided to fit several bolts. Let me show you. So here we are then. I'm going to try to show you how complex this is. And even when all these bolts are slack, it doesn't really pivot very well. It's such an awkward thing to move, because it's basically been a little bit over-engineered the way they've mounted it. Let's start with the adjuster. There's the adjuster. Threaded bar going onto there. So 1 connection, 2, 3, 4, and that's an Allen key. That's the pivot bolt there. Okay, and it needs slackening a little bit, and that is an Allen key head. 5, that is a bolt with a spacer, and that is your actual pivot point for the adjustment of the aircon compressor. But it's worth pointing out that the aircon compressor, is that going to focus for you? It's a bit better to see it there. The aircon compressor, one slack, it doesn't pivot very well. I ended up taking that bolt all the way out. And then, to top it off, down the same hole is that one, which is just above the pivot, because that's the bolt that holds the pivot bracket. And on mine, I had to slacken that off, otherwise the air conditioning pump would not move at all, because these are just primitive designs with the sliding mechanism. So I had to slacken that one and that one. So that's 6 bolts in total. And you won't believe this, but when all them are slack, this doesn't pivot without a bit of force. You have to basically put a bit of a bar down there, and then you can actually get it to move. What an absolute carry on. So you can imagine what it was like putting a new belt over these pulleys. Not easy at all, but we're getting there now. So I'm just going to finish tensioning. I just want to put a little bit more tension on that air pump belt, and then I've got my alternator belt to tighten up, and then we do. Just winding a little bit more tension onto that air pump. Yeah, like I say, I think these are going to all settle in, so I might need to tweak these adjustments a bit later on down the line. Just locking off that pivot bolt. 13mm. That's it. Alright, that's it. We've got the belt tensioned up for the alternator now. So, yeah, happy with that. So, just a quick reminder, alternator, we've got a threaded bar there. We've got this top nut which you lock up after you've adjusted. There's also a little lock nut there, look, that goes back on its stop. And then there's a bolt down underneath here, just near the belt, for the bottom pivot. So actually the alternator belt is probably the easiest belt out of the lot to change. If you're wondering if you've got a problem with your alternator belt, it's fairly straightforward to do. It pivots fairly easily. The rest of it, nightmare. So I'm going to start it up now and check those belts out. Keep your fingers crossed for me, guys. So quiet, this engine, so quiet, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Just gonna have a little feel of those belts now. So I don't burn myself on the exhaust. Yeah, they're feeling good, damn. It's been running a little bit. Go on the other side and have a feel. Yeah, alternator belt's good. Yeah, I'm happy with that compressor belt as well. Happy days. God, that was a marathon, a marathon. This is Life on Cars, her makeup mirror back now. These are all the tools that I used. Hand light, 17-18 ring key, mainly for the 17 end, 17mm spanner, an open-ended spanner. The 17s is all those bolts on the, so your locking bolts for your alternator and your compressor. 13 is the lower bolt for the air pump pivot. Big lever, big pry bar for levering the power steering pump and the aircon pump. 10mm, that was because I had to take the alternator off, and I think the nut for the terminal, the battery feed to the alternator is 10mm. 11mm spanner, that was because all the adjusters, so the adjuster for the air pump, the adjuster for the alternator, and the adjusters for the aircon pump are all 11mm. Wobbly socket for when I was getting underneath and adjusting the power steering pump. 17mm socket for the same reason, you know, for getting in to do the 17mm nuts. 11mm on a little stubby ratchet for quickly adjusting the belts. 17mm thin wall drive socket for the bolts again. A screwdriver, that is for that random Allen key bolt that is below the compressor, and a 1/2 inch drive ratchet, which I was using, I don't know, sorry, I didn't need that, don't know why that's there, didn't need that, so there you go. I'm going to leave them there for memories. Well, there we are then, it's all done and dusted, and yeah, I'm so pleased that I managed to persevere and get those belts on in the end. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to need a rest after that, physically and mentally. It took a lot of thinking through, and climbing in and out of the engine bay wasn't the easiest thing in the world. You know, it's probably one of them jobs that maybe I should have waited until I could get the car maybe on a lift to do that, but I don't know, I looked at the job and I thought should be fairly straightforward, but there you go, these things come to tries, don't they? So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. And very soon we will be taking this car for an MOT. I know you're all waiting for that. That is going to be coming very, very soon on Life on Cars. The weather's improving. It's getting to that point now where I'm ready to get this car on the road finally. And I'm really, really excited about that. I think she's ready. I think she's ready. So stay tuned, hit that subscribe button, share the videos as well, and we'll see where we go in the next few episodes. Take care now and look after each other. See you soon. Bye bye. Bye bye.